The sky over Varnok 7 cracked open without warning. Bright fire trails split the clouds, followed by metal screams from incoming drop pods. The early warning systems failed. By the time the sirens howled, it was already too late. The colony outpost was not built for war. It was meant for research, for peace. That peace shattered in seconds. Sergeant Mace Ruin sprinted through the snowfields, his boots digging into the frozen dirt. Wind whipped at his face. He had only his winter gear, a sidearm, and the cold breath of panic in his lungs. The engine of his hovercart, once a reliable beast, had given up 10 minutes earlier. It hissed smoke, sparks flying, frozen solid in. The wrong place at the worst time. He stopped and pulled a scanner from his belt. No friendly signals. Just static. The enemy had landed beyond the ridge and was sweeping inward fast. Machines with spider legs and energy spikes were cutting through every checkpoint. He needed extraction. He needed transport. He needed a miracle. That was when he heard the growl. Low, rough, not mechanical, not enemy. Something else. Something. Alive. He turned slowly, hand on his weapon. From the mist stepped a tall, muscular figure on all fours. Blue skin. Feline canine features. Long tail swaying. Armor strapped across her chest. Green glowing eyes locked on his. She didn't speak. She didn't attack. She sniffed the air and waited. Mace raised his hands slowly. "Easy," he said. "I'm not here to fight you." She tilted her head and inched forward. The snow crunched under her hands. Her claws dug into the ice. Her breath steamed. He saw the collar around her neck, broken in the back. She was a runner, an escaped soldier. Or something worse. Then she did something strange. She moved past him and walked straight to his broken cart. She sniffed the chains, tapped the controls, looked back at him and growled once. Her voice was deep, not angry, just focused. She pointed at the tow chain and then at her chest, then lowered herself back to all fours. "You want to pull it?" Mace blinked. "You sure about that?" She didn't nod. She just waited. He walked forward slowly and hooked the chain to the back of her belt rig. It wasn't a proper harness, but it would hold. She let out a breath and dug her hands into the snow. When he started the cart again, the engine still refused. But when she moved, the cart lurched forward. The sudden jolt nearly knocked Mace over. He grabbed the side rail and held on. Snow flew in every direction. Her body moved like a machine. Fast and strong, every muscle flexed with precision. She wasn't just running. She was driving through the storm with purpose. Her paws kicked snow behind her like rocket fire. Mace shouted over the wind. "What's your name?" She didn't answer, but her ears twitched. She had heard him. He tried again. "I'm Mace, Sergeant Rowan. You got a name, girl?" She let out a low sound, half growl, half snort. Then she barked once and kept running. It wasn't fear. It wasn't rage. It was determination. They passed frozen trees, shattered beacons, and burning dropships. She never stopped, never slowed. At one point, Mace looked at the scanner again. Enemy signatures were close behind. "Too close," he shouted. "Faster!" Without hesitation, she picked up speed. Her claws tore through the ice. The cart shook. Nearly lost control. But she kept it straight. Bullets tore through the sky behind them. A drone fired a shot that exploded just meters away. Mace ducked and returned fire, hitting the drone's wing. It spiraled into a tree. The canine girl growled. Louder, digging harder. She powered forward through sheer will. Her body steamed in the cold air. Her breath came fast. But she never gave up. Finally, a beacon came into view. The outpost bunker. Reinforcements were gathering. Soldiers looked out in shock as a half-Volf alien pulled a full cart with a human riding it. The gates opened. Mace jumped down, unhooked the chain, and turned to her. She stood tall now, chest heaving, body glowing with heat and power, eyes fixed only on him. "Why?" he asked. "Why help me?" She stepped closer. Her voice came at last, deep, clear. "You didn't point your weapon. You spoke like I mattered." That was enough. Mace didn't know what to say. But he nodded. That bond, born in the snow and fire, was real, and it had only just begun. The bunker walls were thick, built from reinforced steel and half buried in snow. Inside, the air was dry and warm. Lights flickered weakly as backup generators strained to keep everything running. Soldiers moved around the small command room, patching gear and checking weapon charges. But every eye turned when Mace walked in with her beside him. She walked upright now, slow and steady, with her hands relaxed at her sides. Her claws were retracted. Her breathing had settled. But she never let her gaze stray far from Mace. Her body remained alert, like a shield waiting to rise. Some of the soldiers stepped back when they saw her. Others reached for their weapons. Mace raised his hand. "Stand down," he said firmly. "She saved my life, pulled me all the way here. If it wasn't for her, I'd still be freezing outside." "Captain." Darius approached, face stern. "Sergeant, what exactly is that?" Mace stood tall. "She's not a thing. She's a soldier, or she was. I don't know who trained her. But she fought like one of us, and she understands speech. Maybe not every word, but enough." The canine girl turned to face the captain. She gave a small bow, her tail flicking once. "I am called Kayla," she said clearly. "I do not belong to the machines that hunt your kind. I escaped them, and I chose him." Her voice was deep, smooth, and carried weight. Everyone in the room went still. The captain lowered his hand from his holster. "You chose him?" he asked. Kayla nodded. "He didn't raise his weapon. He didn't treat me like an enemy. He used his voice, with respect." That was enough. Mace felt her words settle heavy in the room. Not just the meaning, but the truth behind them. She had pulled a full combat card on frozen terrain under gunfire. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. That choice carried more power than any order. The captain gave a slow nod. "Then she stays for now. But if anything feels off, I pull the trigger myself." Kayla didn't flinch. "Fair," she said. "I would do the same." Later, Mace and Kayla sat in a storage room beside a broken heating unit. She crouched low, tail curled beside her, ears twitching with every small sound. Mace leaned against the wall, his coat draped over his shoulders. He looked at her, really looked, for the first time. Her muscles were dense but graceful. Her face had sharp lines, but her eyes held softness. She looked alien but not dangerous, wild but not savage. "Kayla," he said, testing the name. She looked at him quickly. "Yes," she replied. "That is mine. I gave it myself." "No one gave it to me," he nodded. "Were you trained for war?" She looked down. "Born into it, taken young. Fitted with chains and orders, pulled engines, carried weapons. But I listened, learned, watched the humans. You speak with feeling. Machines do not. That's why I ran." Mace watched her hands as she traced patterns on the metal floor. "Do you miss your people?" he asked. She shook her head. "I never knew them. I only knew commands." "You're the first to ask me anything. That made you mine." He felt something stir inside him. Not attraction, not yet, but connection. A kind of truth that didn't need to be explained. "I didn't know my engine would die," he said. "But maybe it had to. So I'd find you." Kayla looked up slowly, her eyes soft now. "Maybe," she whispered. "Or maybe I was always waiting for someone who didn't scream." Outside, a soldier knocked and called for a briefing. Another wave of enemy drones had landed. The outpost had only hours before another strike. Mace stood and grabbed his rifle. Kayla rose beside him without being asked. "You don't have to come," he said. I'll fight either way. Kayla tilted her head. Where you run, I follow. Your voice commands more than orders. It carries meaning. That makes it worthy. Mace didn't argue. He opened the door, and together they stepped back into the cold air of war. The snow fell heavier now. Thick flakes covered the ground in fresh layers as the second wave of drones arrived. The alarm sounded across the outpost. Soldiers rushed to the walls. Spotlights lit the ridge where machines marched in formation. Cold metal against cold wind. They moved without sound, like shadows wearing armor. Mace stood on the front line, rifle in hand. His breath steamed in the air. Beside him, Kayla crouched low, her eyes glowing in the dark. She wore no helmet, no armor, just her harness and natural strength. She didn't shiver. She didn't flinch. She waited. Do you remember this kind of fight? Mace asked her. She nodded slowly. Yes, but last time I was on their side. This time I fight for myself. For your voice. The drones moved faster now, closing the gap. The first wave fired stun charges. Blue flashes lit the sky. Mace ducked and fired back. The recoil pushed into his shoulder. Kayla leapt forward, claws slashing through one drone's side. Sparks flew. The machine fell. She moved like water over. Ice, fast, precise. She dodged blasts and hit with force. Mace watched her tear into the enemy with fury, not like a beast, but like a trained warrior. Every time he called her name, she responded. Not just with movement, but power. She seemed to grow stronger when he spoke. Kayla, left flank, he shouted. She turned instantly and took down 2 more machines. Her body moved with rhythm. Tied to the sound of his voice, the others noticed it too. She listens to him, one soldier said. Like a trained comlink with claws, the battle stretched into the night. Snow mixed with sparks and blood. When the last drone fell, Kayla stood above it, chest rising and falling. Her skin steamed in the cold. Her hands were covered in frost and metal dust. She turned to Mace. He was leaning against the wall, breath heavy. You hurt? She asked. Just tired, he replied. You? She shook her head. Only awake, more than I've ever been. You gave orders, and I answered. That felt right. Back in the bunker, the soldiers began to understand. She wasn't just some stray creature. She was part of the unit now. They gave her food, clean gear, and even a seat near the map table. She didn't speak much to them, but they saw her loyalty to Mace and respected the bond. Captain Darris pulled Mace aside. She's something else, he said. I've seen machines with less focus. But you're the key. She doesn't move without you. I didn't ask for that, Mace replied. It just happened. Well, keep talking. Because whatever you're doing, it's saving lives. Later that night, Mace sat near the fire pit outside the bunker. Kayla sat across from him, tail curled around her feet. Her eyes reflected the flames. You command me without chains, she said. I've never known that before. Mace looked into the fire. Do you want to leave after this war ends? She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Where would I go? I know only orders. But now your voice is more than that. It guides me, grounds me. I want to follow it. I'm just a soldier, he said. I don't lead anyone. Kayla tilted her head. Then why does my heart listen? Silence settled between them. Not empty, full, warm. She moved closer, not touching, just near enough to feel his breath. I don't know what this is, she said, but it feels real. It feels chosen. Mace didn't pull away. He let the quiet sit. He didn't need to speak. She had heard enough. Inside the bunker, orders came down. A final strike was coming. A push to retake the southern ridge. It would be hard, risky. They needed speed and strength. They needed Kayla. She stood as the order was read. She looked at Mace and nodded. Then we fight again. Side by side, No chains, no commands. Just trust. Mace grabbed his gear. Let's finish this together. Kayla smiled faintly. Her claws clicked against the stone floor as she walked beside him. Their bond was no longer instinct. It was purpose. Asterisk snow swept across the canyon like a storm of needles. The soldiers stood at the ridge's edge, weapons drawn, eyes locked on the frozen valley below. It was quiet, too quiet. Everyone knew the enemy was waiting. The plan was simple: strike fast, strike hard, and retake the power relay tower before it fell under permanent drone control. Mace tightened the straps on his chest plate. His breath came in short bursts, visible in the cold air. Kayla crouched beside him, her hands pressed into the snow. Her tail moved slowly behind her, balancing her form. She hadn't said a word, but her eyes spoke volumes. They were locked onto him, waiting for the signal. A red flare lit the sky. The charge began. Soldiers charged down the slope with cries of defiance. Mace ran beside them, but Kayla didn't run, she leapt. Her body stretched like a beast in flight. Her hands tore into the ice, gaining speed. She didn't need armor. Her skin was her shield. Her speed was unmatched. She reached the first barricade before anyone else. With one swipe, she knocked aside a defense drone. Another tried to fire, but she twisted mid-air and smashed its head into the ground. She growled once and looked up at Mace, who had just reached her position. He pointed forward. The tower's ahead. We moved together. She nodded and took position beside him. The soldiers covered their advance while Kayla tore through defenses. Her body moved with rhythm and fury. Each time Mace gave a direction, she followed without delay. Her loyalty wasn't forced. It was chosen. She responded not to orders, but to belief. Inside the tower's outer shell, the air turned warm. The machines had converted it into a hive of wires and heat. Kayla sniffed the air and lowered her body. Mace raised his weapon and swept the corridor. They moved together like one creature with two minds. When danger came, they reacted in sync. Large mechanical unit appeared near the main core. Its armor was thicker, legs longer, and its weapon hummed with energy. Mace fired, but the rounds bounced off. The machine locked onto him and fired a concussive blast. Mace flew backward and hit the wall hard, his vision blurred. His rifle skidded across the floor. Kayla screamed. Not in fear, but in rage, her eyes burned. She lunged at the machine, slamming into its side. The force threw it off balance. It fired again, but she ducked low, spun behind it, and leapt onto its back. With both hands, she tore through the panels until sparks burst from its spine. The machine collapsed in a heap of metal and light. Mace coughed and sat up. Blood ran from his temple. Kayla ran to him and dropped to her knees. Her hands touched his face, carefully, like he was fragile. "You hurt," she said. He nodded slightly. "I'm still here." "Thanks to you. You spoke to me," she said. "That gave me strength. That gave me reason." Mace pulled himself to his feet with her help. He picked up his weapon and looked toward the relay panel. "We still have to shut it down. Can you cover me?" Kayla stood tall, blood and wires staining her arms. Always, while Mace worked on the panel, Kayla stood guard. Two drones tried to enter, but she blocked the doorway. One got a shot off, grazing her leg. She growled and crushed its skull with her foot. The second she chased down and silenced with a clean strike. Her body shook, but she never fell. The tower lights dimmed as the power relay overloaded. Mace stepped back from the panel. "We did it," he said. Kayla reached for him. "You did it. I protected the voice that guided me." Together they stepped out into the snow. The others saw them emerge and let out a cheer. The tower had been saved. The ridge was theirs again. Kayla dropped to one knee, breathing hard, tail dragging. Mace crouched and held her hand. "You're not just muscle," he said. "You're more than instinct. You're a soldier." And more than that, you're my partner. Kayla looked up at him, chest rising and falling. You say the words, and I become more than I was. I don't need chains. I need truth. Mace squeezed her hand. Then that's what I'll keep. Giving you. Their bond was no longer strange to others. It was understood, respected, earned, and what they had created together was only growing stronger. The sky above the ridge had cleared. The storm was gone. Light from two suns poured down over the battlefield, washing the snow in gold. Smoke still rose from broken machines. Sparks flickered across twisted metal. But the outpost stood tall. The tower was safe. And so were the soldiers who had fought to defend it. Mace stood beside the damaged wall, his armor scratched and his body aching. Around him, his squad moved with quiet pride. They were tired, but alive. They had done the impossible. And at the center of it all stood Kayla. She was bandaged across the leg, but she didn't sit down. She stood tall, breathing slowly, her eyes scanning the horizon. Captain Darris walked up to Mace with a nod. She earned her place, he said. I don't know what she is, but I know what she's become. We need her. She's not ours, Mace replied. She's her own. She stays because she chooses to. And I won't ever treat her like property. Darris looked at Kayla, then back at Mace. Then you better make sure she keeps choosing. U.S., because people like her don't come twice. Later that evening, the fires burned low. The soldiers gathered around the main pit, sharing warm meals and quiet laughter. Mace sat on a log, staring into the flames. Kayla approached, her step soft. She sat beside him without a word. Her tail curled around his boots. I've never had a home, she said. Not truly. I was always on the run. Or under orders. Now I sit, and no one commands me. I listen only to your voice. Not because it controls me. Because it gives me peace. Mace nodded. You could leave now. No one would stop you. You've done more than enough. Kayla turned her head, eyes glowing in the firelight. And go where? To silence? To chains? No. This is where I became something else. Not a beast. Not a weapon. I became myself. Because you gave me space to become. Mace looked down at his hands. They were scarred, rough from battle, but they were clean. Not stained by command. I didn't do anything special, he said. I just treated you like a person. Kayla leaned her shoulder against his. That is what made it special. I would have followed any voice. But yours made me stop running. The next morning brought new orders. The sector was declared secure. The war had shifted to a different front. The outpost would remain, but many would be transferred. Mace was offered a promotion, a new post, a new command. He read the orders in silence. Kayla stood nearby, sensing the change in the air. They want you to leave, she said. Will you? Mace folded the paper slowly. Not without you. Then we go together, she said. Not as soldier and beast, but as partners. Let them send us wherever they want. I will follow, because you speak truth. And I answer with action. They packed their gear that afternoon. Soldiers shook Kayla's hand. Some gave her small tokens. A scarf, a patch, a tooth from a drone she had killed. These were signs of respect, of family. She accepted them with a quiet bow. When the transport ship landed, Mace stepped aboard first. He turned and reached out his hand. Kayla took it. She stepped into the bay, standing tall beside him. The door closed behind them. They did not look back. In the weeks that followed, stories spread through the ranks. Tales of a canine alien girl who outran engines and crushed drones. A soldier who spoke not with commands, but with care. A bond forged not from orders, but from truth. And in every version of the story, one fact remained. She pulled him from the snow with her hands. He pulled her from the chains with his voice. They had saved each other, not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to.